Hello everyone, Kryptonite here and welcome back to another Hydroneer video. So in this video we're going to talk all about logic and auto-smelting. So as you can see here, I've got a absolutely massive creation. This is a work in progress, so just ignore the mess for the meantime. The most important bit is this bit here. Back a few updates ago, I have got an old video of an auto-smelt system with logic, but it does involve magnets and there is a few problems with it, like getting the timing right and the fact that the magnets sometimes work, sometimes don't, various other problems like that. So for a while now I've been playing around with the logic and the auto smelter, and I've done quite a bit of testing on this massive scale here, and I think I've pretty much managed to create a pretty stable system without any magnets. So let's hook this up and we will showcase how it all works. So let's hook it all up so you can see it all in action, and you can see what I mean by getting it pretty damn perfect. So it's now hooked up and it's all operational. As I said, just ignore the mess, this is a work in progress. As you can see here, I've basically got one reader on the corestone ore because that is the one that takes the longest to fill up. I found that when I set the reader on the iron and the gold, especially with a setup this big, it kept going off every 5 seconds. So it wasn't really ideal, but at the moment I've only got it set to 10. I'll get a bit more into detail with the build a bit later on, but as you can see, it's pretty much working without any hiccups. Whenever the reader detects a weight of 10 for the corestone, the conveyor belts stop, the auto smelters drop out the bars, and there doesn't seem to be any mishaps, which is all well and good. So it seems to be working pretty perfect. I have got my shards down there, and I've got my reader right down here at the bottom instead of the old setup where I had it up there. The only reason being is because when I had it up here, the reader down there, which is the reset, it kept tripping off the auto smelters as each bar kept going through, and it kept clogging up the system. So I found that having one smelter down the bottom there worked perfectly. So as you can see, it's been running a few minutes now and everything seems to be working as smooth as anything. So just to prove that I have pretty much narrowed it down to a nice decent setup. So let's switch it off and just showcase quickly what I have kind of built here. As being down here a bit too long, my frames are dropping quite significantly. So we'll turn this off, let my frames reset. We'll just clear all the resources as well. There we go, running a bit more smoothly now. So basically what I have here, I've got a simpler sort of setup up the top just so I can showcase to you a bit better and run through how it all works and how to set it up. But this is how it kind of looks on a large scale. It does look rather complicated and a fairly length of cable, but that's because I've ran it so I can hide it with flooring. That's pretty much the only reason why it looks the way it does at the moment. So as you can see here, the scale, I've got 10 tier 3 drills, 10 harvesters as well. So it's quite a heavy flow and it seems to be working all perfectly well. I wouldn't worry too much about the frames dropping too much as long as you're not down here too often. Obviously Hydroneer has always been an issue with frames dropping when you've got a whole load of resources flowing through. So just a side little tip, when you're doing a big build like this, try and have as little resources going up to the surface as possible. It'll just help with a bit smoother gameplay. So in regards to the gems, I've just got some gem polishers and they're just coming off a different conveyor belt system, because I found that if you have it on the same conveyor belt system as the bars, it will interfere with the reset reader and it will also clog up your system as well. So that's just another side note. So let's head up to the top and I'll show a basic a simpler looking design so it's easy for you to follow, and I will run through what to do in the case of having multiple smelters. So here we are back on the surface and this is a simplified version. Now this may not look simplified, but I've done it nice and big and spread out so it's easy for you to follow. So let's get into how you set up this. So similar to my first video that I did, it's pretty much the same as that, but without any magnets. So it is a little bit more simplified, and you can make it a lot more compact than what it looks like here as well. So from the smelter, you've got your main reader, which will detect the weight that you require. Basically, out of the back of the reader, what you want is an A, B, and greater than or equals 2. Now, from the B section, you want your keypad where you will distinguish what weight you require. So let's just shove this on 20, ready for the sort of the testing purposes, and I will show you how it all works. So from your greater than or equal to, you want a T-piece. Now from your T-piece, as you can see here, what you want to do is you want to have some cables coming out to another T-piece just here. And then from the bottom of that T-piece, you want to go down to your smelter. Now if you are having more than one smelter, all you need to do is basically, instead of this elbow piece, have a T-piece and just literally link them all together. You don't have to worry about doing this for each individual one. Now, don't worry about too much about the timers for now. I'll run through them after. But coming back up to this T-piece, you want this T-piece to trail off over to your Logic shutoff valve, as you can see there with the pipe. And that will basically shut off your water supply to stop your conveyor belts and your machine working until the smelter has done its job. Now, if we head back to this reader here, you just want to come out the top of the reader, you want to loop down to a T-piece, and from this T-piece you want to go to another reader. Now this reader here is your reset reader, and you want that reading the conveyor belt. So as the bar passes through, the reader will detect it and it will reset the system. So if we just head, in fact we'll stay over here so you can see it a little bit better. So from this T-piece you want to come out into another T-piece, loop back around to the back of this reader, and then you want to basically loop it from there all the way around to the top of this T-piece here. Now it is pretty simple. Once you've built a couple of them and you get used to it, it is really simple to do. And as I said, this looks really complicated, but you can compact it a lot more than this. Now, a few things that you need to bear in mind. There is a few hooks for the Logic cables that you definitely need. So you definitely need a loop hook on this one here. And basically the loop hook, if we pick it up, the Logic flip hook will turn an income logic of 0 into 1 and the reverse as well, so 1 into 0. So basically when the reader reads this bar, it will read a 1, but this flip hook will turn into a 0. That will then come out and reset this reader into 0 after reading the weight, and it will also reset everything else back to 0 as well, and it resets the whole system. Now the next thing you want to do out of the back of this second, or I like to call the reset reader, following up to the top where it comes back down to your A is greater than or equals to B, you want a diode to make sure that the electrical current only goes this way through, so the output of this can't go back that way and interfere with this reader, because we only want this one to read a 1 and a 0. Now next is the timers. So these are very important. It took me a long time to test various different times, various different time delays and everything like that. And while some other time delays did work, after stress testing and leaving the machine running for a good like half hour or so, if for instance I set the timer for the valve to like a 10-second timer to give it plenty of time before it restarted, so it wasn't any overspill into the smelter, although it worked for a little while, after many loops and length of time it messed up the timings quite a lot. This is the timing that I seem to find worked the absolute best, and I've had no issues with it at all. So going to your Logic valve hook, you want a 1-second timer, and then going to the bottom of the smelter you want a 2-second timer as well. Now you want to bear in mind that I've found that these timer hooks only work on straight pieces of Logic, so that's where the sort of taking up a bit of space is going to be the issue. I'm sure you can work it all around. Now if we head over here to the Logic valve hook, we've just got one more Logic flip hook here, and we want that just before because that will also reset 1 to 0 and 0 to 1. So now I've explained all of that to you. Let's hook up this pipework and you can see it all in action in a very simplified form, so I can show it to you a lot better. So let's head over here and we can see our ores passing through, and you can see that this reader here will count until it reaches whatever number we've put in this keypad, which is 20. So once this reader reaches 20 in wait, you will see that the smelter will activate. And then you will see that this reader will turn to 1 when the bar passes, and then this reader should reset to 0. But when this one also reaches 20, you should see that this conveyor belt turns off because it will activate the valve hook. So we'll just wait a few more seconds for this to hit 20 and you will see it all in action and working. It's a minute now, so we've hit 20. After a second delay, the conveyor belt stops and the smelter activates. And then when that resets to 0, it will reset this reader back to 0. It will follow the current down to here, reset this logic valve hook. You would think it would reset it back to 0, but because of the logic flip hook, it turns it back to 1, which then opens the valve and starts the machine again. Now, as I said, I've stress tested this to great lengths, and this timing is what's worked best for me without any issues or overspill or clogging up. So there we go, everyone. Hopefully you found this video helpful. You can incorporate your Logic AutoSmelting into your builds. Now, once I've finished underground setting all that up, I'll be doing a showcase video. But if you did like this video and found it helpful, make sure you hit that like button. If you have any questions about how this build works and why certain things do what they do, then feel free to leave me a comment. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. It's been Kryptonite here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.